Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to Insurance for the New Possible, a Chubb conversation. Today, we are joined by Joe Duronio, Strategic Partnership Director, APAC and Japan at Snowflake, and Gabriel Lazaro, Head of Digital Business, Overseas General Insurance at Chubb. It's great to have you both here. Before we get into the main part of this conversation, let's get a little bit of your background for some context, Joe.
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from the United States. I've been based here in Singapore for about 4 years. Most of my career I spent in insurance, but about the last 5 or 6 years I've been in technology. In insurance, I worked as legal counsel for one of the largest insurance companies in the world, and I did a lot of strategy around technology as well. Then I worked in an insurtech, and then I've been with Snowflake for the last 2.5 years, where, as you noted, I managed some partnerships across all of APAC and Japan. It's really great to be here today. Thank you, Michael and Gabe, for having me.
Thank you. Gabriel?
Yeah, so it's a pleasure to be here, Joe. Thank you for being here, Michael. As always, my name is Gabriel Lazaro. I'm the head of digital business for Chubb COG, where it basically is the international market. So I oversee all of our B2B2C distribution with e-commerce, fintech, mobility companies, telcos, and we embed our proposition inside their platforms just to add additional value to the end user. I think, Joe, it's the other way around. So I started in tech.
Very good.
I don't want to talk about it for many years and moved to insurance. Geez, it was 12 years, but I think I'm still in the beginning. The last 9 years in Chubb with different roles, starting in Latin America, the digital business based in Miami, and 3 years ago I moved here to Singapore to lead in the international business.
So I think the one takeaway for me is that you cannot separate insurance and technology. And even though both of you came at it from separate angles, you can't separate it.
I think that's very true.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does your speaking Japanese give you a benefit when you're dealing with Japanese clients?
Look, so I can speak Japanese to a certain extent.
But it's good enough, you know what I mean?
It is. It helps build rapport.
Right.
So just for the audience, my wife is Japanese. I've been going to Japan for 15 some years, and it's a big part of our business here. And it's Japan's one of the largest insurance markets in the world as well.
Exactly. And that's the point that I want to make. My Japanese is not perfect, but it gets you into a position where just culturally, if you understand with whom you're dealing, and you can make a little bit of an effort, that your counterpart will think, I can deal with this person. Because if you've made that effort, you'll make other efforts. And it's got to be the same for you as well, because you're multicultural, multilingual. And when you deal with other people from different cultures, you're already thinking, how can I help?
That's right. I know Joe speaks Spanish, and you guys, you are another level and much more simple. So I speak English while trying. Spanish is my mother tongue, and then Portuguese and Italian because I studied there, and Portuguese is also a Latin language. But I'm not so as skilled as you guys speaking.
Let's be careful about that.
Exactly what you just said, I think, is actually what happened between Gabe and I in building rapport. Is I learned Spanish in Madrid,
right?
Yeah.
And that's I have an accent that is somewhat close to his hometown.
Just to let you know, we were thinking to do this podcast in Spanish.
In Spanish,
just to let you know, but we said, no, let's do it in English.
It's okay. I always get left out. Somehow, when my business partner and I travel, we always end up in a restaurant or in a place where the other people there speak French.
Sure.
Martin's from France. I don't speak any French, and I'm just sitting there alone as usual. So if you want to do it in Spanish, go for it. Okay.
He can.
Yeah.
He can.
Gracias.
Okay, let's jump into this. Joe, how is Snowflake helping insurance companies harness data to create more personalized and even contextual products for their customers? How does that work?
Absolutely. So just to give the background for everybody, Snowflake is a data lake and data warehouse at its core. With the advent of AI in the last few years, we were helping to facilitate and enable companies to do AI at the enterprise level in a governed and secure way. And we do that across every vertical. But given my background, I'd love to dive in about how we do that in insurance.
Please.
Right, so in insurance, we help with data and analytics, whether that's in underwriting, targeting clients, helping to match assets and liabilities from a financial services, all the way back to the investment side.
Right.
What I think is really cool and what we're really excited about with the Chubb partnership is our ability to share data across different verticals and off different parts of the value chain. So whether that's an insurance broker to the insurance carrier, all the way back to the reinsurer, we can do that in a way with data in the cloud. Right? And that's different than how it was over the last 20, 30 years when data was trapped in silos and databases in each of those individual companies. To connect that data required APIs and FTP and all these difficult things. It takes months to set up.
It was hard.
So now we can do those things very easily. And so to build these kinds of partnerships, we're a backbone of that.
And what does that look like to you from your perspective? This data sharing and the AI and stuff.
So
like that.
that's I think there is a famous sentence. I don't know who said that. Data is the new oil. It was like 6-7 years ago, 10 maybe I'm wrong, right? I think it's not oil, it's the oxygen. I mean, it's just like it's now we live and breathe data across all sectors. But if you think about insurance, it's what we do.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to play off of that, and I wanted to bring in the idea that you mentioned before of how tied and connected insurance is with technology.
With technology, please go ahead.
There's an old expression. This is much older than the expression you said. That insurance is nothing but paper and a promise.
Yeah.
All right.
Fair enough.
Now, when you think about that, it's a contract, it's a promise. Something bad happens to you, the insurance company is going to be there for you. What's happened is people like Gabe have gotten rid of all the paper. Right? They digitized everything. So now insurance is paper and data.
Yeah.
And that's all that it is.
Well, it's data and a promise.
That data, I'm sorry, data and a promise. Thank you very much.
Not at all.
Those promises, those contracts used to be stored in physical warehouses.
That's right.
And another copy kept in the desk drawer of the person who did it. Now it's all data.
It's all data. And it affects, if you think about it, going a little bit deeper, it's along the entire life cycle. It's how with partners, and we are very excited what we are exploring with you guys, is that how can we, at the end we are a B2B2C, right?
Yeah.
So it's how can we partner with those telcos, those mobility companies, those e-commerce, fintech banks, you name it, and how they store data, and how can we utilize that data to create better propositions. And proposition means the product that is relevant for me at the moment, that is important, that has a great user experience, and not only in the way of purchase, also in the services and claim, and how data can help to enable all that and do it in a meaningful way. And I think that's the journey that we are in, and I'm super excited that what we are working, Joe. And that's just the beginning, I guess.
Can we dig a little bit deeper, if you don't mind, into this unsiloing of the data?
Yeah.
Right, because in the old days, as you said, it was paper and a promise. Now it's data and a promise, or digital and a promise, right?
Sure.
But now that all this data is connected, how can we use that as a methodology to create better products? Do you know what I mean? Because before you had this data and this data and this data, but now you have all of it in a lake. Yeah?
So we're doing a good job in breaking down those silos and getting it to connected. It's not quite there yet.
It's new still, though,
It's
right?
new. It's very new. And particularly in insurance, which is, typically the largest pieces of that market are very old companies that have made acquisitions years upon years. And every time they make that acquisition, they acquire a whole new set of technology. So those silos are still very much there, country by country. Geo by geo, but also within the company, they've got their sales and marketing data on Salesforce.
Right.
They've got their financial data on SAP. And what we do is we help to break down those silos inside the company and then across all of their different subsidiaries. So then, to your point, what business value does that create? Right? It helps in your ability to target a client, know where he is in his life cycle, whether they're about to have a child, whether they're in the process of buying a home, whether they're buying a car, or whether they're just taking a trip, right? And that data can help give that proposition at the right time. But again, all the way through to claims management, right? How often are we likely to see claims? Can I give better prices to my clients if they act in better ways? All the way back to the investments, where can I better tie how much I'm getting from interest rates and yield to being able to price my products better and distribute risk across that pool of clients.
Right.
So I think tying all those pieces together is how we build that business value, from the sale to the optimal claims to the investments that help give better pricing to clients.
Totally spot on, Joe. And also, if you think about the user and the end user, imagine all the friction that we are taking out.
Yeah.
The friction about, because there's nothing more annoying that you want a product, maybe you were thinking about the life insurance, or you are thinking at the right time with a residential insurance, or you name it, and then asking you questions, right? The platform that you are interacting, they should know that. Why I'm asking this thing again? I think we experienced that, right? Not trying to be, we're not perfect, but and also in the claims moment, right? In the claim, why do I need to answer all these questions, right? That they should know. I think that reduces a lot of the friction, and I think that's that's something very important in order to provide those not only the right product, is the overall experience that facilitate this data exchange in a secure and frictionless manner.
Have you noticed a difference from your perspective when you get this data unsiloed as well? Do you know, like in the old days, you would see this one thing and think, I have to do this. But now that some of the data is tied together, you think, wait a second, I can make a much better experience for my client because now I have a much better combination of that data.
No, that's right. I mean, at the end, I think Joe said that this is what we do. Is not just understanding the customer, the demographics, the sociographics. Is understanding if that customer has opened a claim. Where is that claim? Right, connected all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Right.
Easy to say.
Yeah.
Easy to say. But yeah, I think that's spot on, Michael.
So we're still at early days of this, right?
Yeah.
I think. But can I ask you just structurally or procedurally? You have all these tools at your avail, right? Mm-hmm. So when you go into a new company that, like you said, is using SAP for this,
Sure.
Salesforce for sales, all that stuff, what is the process you have to go through to try to combine all that stuff together? I'm just curious, what that looks like.
That's exactly what we do, right? So our company was founded by some executives who left Oracle, right, and said that they had to redesign data lake, data warehouse for the cloud.
Interesting,
right? So with that, and the company is about 12 years old, and it's we have over 8,000 clients that tend to be some of the largest global companies in the world. So the process to that is to say that we're the data platform, we're the AI data cloud, right? And that if you want to use all of those tools, you can. And we have a native connector or adapter to almost every one of those pieces of software that you mentioned. So pulling all that data into one place is what we do. That's
awesome.
Step one.
That's so interesting, though, no?
I mean, step 2 and 3 is how do I use AI on this and how do I do other things in machine learning? I mean, we have tools and capabilities, but we also plug into a ton of other tools. Some of our partners in this space, particularly in insurance, Alteryx, Data EQ, Fivetran, these are all other companies that plug into our platform and help process data. And it's been a really good experience.
So data itself, people kind of get an understanding of it already, right? They already have an understanding of it. People have been talking about data, big data, all this stuff, data analytics for 10 or 15 years.
Sure.
But the other part, the follow-on part where you say you're now adding some artificial intelligence into it as well. What is this that I did a recording recently with a very large IT services company, NTT Data. And one of the things that their CEO said to me was, we are training people internally aggressively so that they know how to do it, but that also so they can train the people that they're working with how to do it. From your perspective, when you go into these companies, what is their status of understanding how they can use that?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up NTT Data because they're one of my largest partners in the region, and they help to do and execute on large Snowflake projects for some of the largest enterprises.
John Lombard.
Yeah. So it's so that's one of the ways that we do it. Is some of these companies aren't necessarily prepared. Or
they're not ready, right?
Yeah, but they can hire the Deloittes, the Accentures, the NTTs of the world to help execute on those kinds of projects, to build the strategy, to help figure out what the solution will be and customize it for them. So that's one of the ways we go about it. And NTT has been a great partner for us. I think they're number one in the APJ region and an incredibly important part of our business in Japan.
Yeah. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. So do you want to talk about specific products maybe where the data has helped, particularly on the embedded side, develop new ideas, particularly when it comes to using new forms of data?
Yeah, so Miss, that's our, we are super excited about that. And if you think about insurance, right, before the platforms that we are working, you don't know much about the user. It's kind of a standardized approach. I wouldn't say one size fits all, but at the end, it's just one product. And then you are trying to find customers that really resonates with that. If you see the examples that we have now, and for the reference of everyone at Chubb, we have more than 200 innovators, I would like to say. We think about the digital banks across the 3 regions that I manage, Latin America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. E-commerce, mobile wallets, mobility companies, telcos. We evolved our proposition started 7, 8 years ago with the product that we have and then looking for solution just to co-create products with those partners.
Right.
And that is really interesting because we start to understand what are the pain points that those customers they are having when they are transacting with those mobile apps, for example, whatever you are doing. And we spend an average of 5 to 6 hours a day clicking from one app to other app to doing things, right? Clicking on airlines to go, purchasing a ticket to
Hotels,
go to
whatever
New
it
York,
is, yeah.
taking an experience, here in Singapore, taking a Grab, or in other places taking an Uber, or then you are doing your shopping with an e-commerce that maybe is relevant to you, or booking some tickets, whatever, right? Those experience, those customers, those personas that are interacting are very different from one to another, and then co-create with that data the product that is relevant for that user, that really adds value or minimize the risk of what the user is doing within the app and the journey, is what makes the product really relevant and sticky. And we have plenty of examples around the world that using that data, co-creating those experiences that are relevant, in path, easy to understand, easy to purchase. Again, it's not needed to ask questions. And then with a claims experience that is superior is what makes the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's our journey. And that's what we are, and that's what we love to partner with companies like Snowflake and others that help us to dream big, right?
Do you want to talk a little bit about the embedded insurance example and where you guys fit in?
So, I mean, Gabe just did a great job of talking about where that is in the journey, and we're not typically on the front end of that.
Not at all.
We're very much
on
in the ability of how do these two companies come to that agreement in a near real time situation, and we can do that with direct data shares between these two companies.
Did they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the common use cases.
Go ahead.
So a direct data share, basically, when your data is in the cloud, it's in the same server system, right? And so the data is right next to each other. You don't have to move it from some database in your basement across the internet to somebody else's, analytical system. So that data can be queried in a way that's safe and governed across the two companies.
Right.
And that's where we facilitate that, again, very near real time analysis and potentially all the way through to the transaction.
From a B2B to C perspective, right? So you can get data from a platform, from an e-commerce platform, right?
Sure.
Shopee, Lazaro, whatever it is, yeah? But how do you make sure that you're getting the product that the user needs? Because it's more difficult, I would think, to get data from that end user. Or how does that get aggregated in through the platform?
Yeah. So we can mask certain data, right?
So it's anonymized, yeah?
Yeah, we can anonymize it. We can tokenize it. We can do a lot of things from a security perspective. And then so that Chubb as the insurer is only getting the elements that it needs to underwrite this policy or to share that data back and forth. We can even do it the other way now in our marketplace, where Chubb can create its underwriting standards and basically operate that onto the client's data with never seeing that data itself. But the rules are transferable. So those are really cool and interesting things that we can do in this ecosystem now that we couldn't do 10, 15 years ago at all, and probably not even 5 years ago.
How do you tokenize data?
So basically, you
said it. It's just so interesting.
Yeah. No, not tokenize in terms of the crypto.
I understand.
In terms of giving it an artificial number,
right? So
that nobody sees the social security number or ID of an individual, but it's anonymized. That token is then transferred back and forth between the two, so the data can be shared securely.
There are shared concepts. I knew it wasn't crypto, but there are the shared concept of like self-sovereign identity, and also zero knowledge proofs, right? And that allows you to control the data that other people see in a way that they only see what you want them to see, but they can then use that data to make products that are better for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about this concept of mobilize your data?
Yeah. So I mean, it's very much what we were just saying. Right?
Okay.
It's the ability to be able to share those data, between two companies, and to be able to send. Now we can do an entire, we call it a data application. So instead of having to build apps and then having to bring your app to the data, your data to the app and back and forth, we can do those in the same governed development framework inside Snowflake.
Right.
So it's all within our same platform, and that can involve the aggregation of data from another company in your value chain, but it can also be other data sources that you get from our marketplace. So that could be weather data, it could be credit scores for individuals, it could be a lot of different things that can help augment that, in addition to the thing that's being shared between two parties directly. And so now you can, send your data in a safe, secure way to your broker or to your e-commerce front end, and vice versa.
What is the marketplace?
Yeah, so we have over 2,000 data sources on Snowflake's data marketplace, and those can be traditional data companies like S&P, stock exchanges, weather data, Experian that does credit scoring, all around the world, various government data, a lot of economic data, populations and censuses. And
So
all
you
these
take
types of
so you
things.
take public and shareable data. I said public, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some public data out there as well, and some shareable data.
Absolutely.
So companies that like you said, Salesforce,
Yeah,
whoever
some of
they
these,
are,
they
Experian.
charge for it. Some
Right.
of them, these are free. Some of those, there's free trials, and then there's
I was going to
different
ask,
subscription
but I was
fees.
asking about that. But you're creating like an entirely different business around the sharing of data as well.
Yes.
So when companies like Chubb participate in there, they get access to data that they may not have otherwise have had access to when they're creating their products. Yeah,
That's right.
that sounds
That's
kind of
right.
cool.
That's what we are exploring, right? Is that everything that helps and facilitate data exchange in a secure manner, right? That help us to develop or enhance propositions as an insurer. It's super interesting.
Happy to
Yeah.
do, right?
Super interesting. Right?
Yeah.
And if you see the velocity of the changes and the trajectory that we are, it's obvious that everything is going to be about data.
Yeah.
And it's not that data. Also think about Chubb. The data that we have with a company that we represent. And I think that's one of our differentiator factors.
Got it.
Our global presence, our experience, what we have, right? That IP is what matches and complement what Joe is saying. Because what Joe says is great. But this is external elements that without the knowledge of insurance, it's a great, talking about Formula One, it's a great car, but you need a driver. You need a driver, right?
You need a driver.
Right.
So that's where we play the role on that, and that's the journey that we are.
I'm really interested in the marketplace.
Yeah.
What was the original idea there, and how did you originally get companies to participate in it?
I think originally we had data shares that were 1-to-1,
Right.
then 1-to-many,
Right.
and then we said, well, if it was 1-to-many, we might have make this many,
Many.
right? And so it was kind of a naturally occurring thing. And now we have got people who are focused and dedicated on helping companies get their data onto Snowflake as a way. And these may be companies that already had and sold data. FactSet is a great example. Very common in the financial world for every asset manager to buy data. Every insurance company, which are asset managers as well, buy data from FactSet. This is a different way to distribute it in a way that it can be much faster and cleaner, and don't have to set up these different connections all around the world.
But it feels like just a brand new business, right? Because again, you're digitalizing a business that before was really manual.
Absolutely. And one thing that's, we don't charge for that at all.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, why would you? Because the value add
helps
you guys and
for
your customers are great.
Yeah, I mean, we make money on calculations. We call it, capacity of consuming the data and making changes to the data, and that's where we drive revenue. And so, for companies to be able to share data on our marketplace, will eventually result in them doing more calculations.
Yeah, more sharing, more calculations.
That's great.
More revenue. Are there companies that are on the marketplace that you wouldn't have anticipated came? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah. I mean, so yeah. I wouldn't have suspected NTT Data to build an app on our marketplace, but they have.
But they did.
So to see consulting firms doing that, one of the very famous examples in financial services is Capital One. Built a tool called Slingshot and launched it on our platform. Actually, Capital One was one of our first major clients and one of the first sizable banks that we got. And that may be a bit U.S. focused because I know they're not as international as some of the firms. But the app that they built was, much to our chagrin, an app to help control costs when you use Snowflake. But it's a great thing because it helps our clients. It helps
they
all
built
of our
an
clients.
app for you.
Well, they built an app for themselves.
Right.
And then they distribute it to all their other clients to
That
better
is
manage some of the costs and to optimize how they use Snowflake as a financial services
That
firm.
must have been a big surprise, right?
It's a big surprise, but at the end of the day, we want the same thing. We want to drive value for our clients, So I think every business has that little, is that the right thing? And then you say, yeah, if it's for their client, then it's the right thing. Mm-hmm. Right? That comes the same thing about pricing insurance.
That's right. That's right.
Is there a sales impact here as well? Not just on the pricing of it, but on the sales and distribution on the data side?
Starting with the definition of the product that is relevant for the user.
Right.
That means that's the one. That means you see something that's really relevant for me and what I'm doing. Second is the friction of that, reducing the friction of purchase.
Okay.
So if I need to ask for age, gender, profession, or you're talking about cell phone make, model, it means if you really use that and you see, imagine that you are you're looking for a cell phone insurance, and then you have the data, and I can give you a price right away without asking anything. That's much easy to purchase, right? So I think those are the two first ones that are top of mind. So it really helps to increase the conversion rate when we are offering something. It's relevant, easy to purchase, right? You don't need to ask for extra data. So that's the easy one to with that.
Again, we were talking to NTT Data, John Lombard, right, the CEO there, and one of the things he talked about was training internally. Because with all these new tools that are coming out, are you facing the same thing where you have to train people? Like now you have access to way more things to be able to do your job better.
Okay, that's so we have internally we have training programs. There is a whole program of work led by Sean Riston about analytics and data. So there are many things undergo at Chubb, right? This is front and central in what we do.
Right. Got it. Do we have an opinion on what like the next big data-driven innovations are going to be?
Yeah. So there's always when I'm asked
because in a way, right? I don't want you to predict the future, but in a way, because of where you sit and because of the marketplace and because of all the things you see, you may see more than any of your individual customers see. At some level, right?
To some extent, that's true. I mean,
you've come out of the insurance industry as well, so I'm curious how you just put all those things together.
I do. I would say, I've been out of the core insurance industry for 4 or 5 years, and I'm not going to say that I would know as deeply as what Gabe has done in innovation, and I think it's great things that Chubb is doing in innovation. But that said, I do get to see a little bit of what all these different clients are doing, and not just in insurance, but across the board.
For sure,
a lot of other verticals that we work in.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the great things when we think about where we can get embedded insurance in other places. So some of the things that I think are happening is that our platform is being used more and more for enterprise AI. Right. And
where does it fit in, though?
Yeah. So if you just, open up one of the large language models, whether that's OpenAI's ChatGPT or Mistral or anything coming out of Meta, and you start to interact with that, you really don't have a good feeling about where your data is going, if it's being used to reinforce that model in some way. And you certainly can't talk to those machines about anything private, like an individual client.
No, it'd be insane.
It'd be
It'd be insane because once it gets out there, then everybody has access to it at some level.
So that's why we have companies' data right on the cloud. We are there with the cloud providers that have the GPUs.
Right.
We've got a partnership with NVIDIA. Right, as well, in terms of where the GPUs are allocated globally and how we can use those to do calculations.
I can't imagine what kind of processing power you guys have, but go ahead.
Well, so it's not our processing power.
I know,
We're software only, but we land on AWS, Microsoft, Google, and each of those are the NVIDIA clients. So there's this sort of a chain, this value chain between the GPUs that are being created, the servers that exist, and then where we fit as a software on top of that. But what we can do is provide the ability in what we call our Cortex engine. Right, so Cortex will allow you to use various of those models on top of your own data without your data going back to reinforce those models. Right, and so that's when an enterprise can use AI. What are they going to use it for? I mean, not just insurance; they're going to use it for generating code. Right, so the ability to write new code using natural language is just escalating very, very fast.
Interesting.
And so it's going to be used in all types of product development, whether in insurance or in anything else. Any app that's being made is going to have a lot of code written by AI. And I think it's going to help businesses like Gabe's accelerate in developing new products. I think it's very exciting.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what you think the next big data-driven innovation is going to be? Again, I'm not asking for predictions. None of us know. We don't know. But I'm just curious, as you're interacting, thinking, the next thing I want to work on could be something like this.
I cannot disclose much. But just a teaser conceptually. Because I'm really excited about it, right? And I think we talk about it. And I like to, when you are getting old, I think you are getting much more perspective. And we were just before we started, I started my career on the mobile infotainment.
Right.
It was the old mobile black and white, right? I have people playing a piano, right? To copycatting melodies just to upload that in a Nokia Motorola device. And then we were selling that. So we were selling that.
I love it.
It was just early 2000s. But then I would say we have connections with the music industry, right? And I saw the evolution of the music industry, right? And at those time, 2000s, I mean, so you remember, music was based on physical distribution, right? It was CDs, right?
Yes.
CDs.
Right.
it was curated by the labels, by verticals. By verticals, the country music, the
R&B, all that stuff.
R&B, blah blah blah. Right.
Yeah.
Super expensive because you need to add all the kind of physical distribution. That you need to manufacture the thing, you need to put the marketing, you need to put the logistics.
It's really expensive.
The retailer, and the launch cycles.
Right.
Launch cycles, since you record something until you get to the user is launch cycles, right? Then the first change that happens, it was when Steve Jobs developed the
iTunes.
The
iPod,
iTunes.
yeah.
Remember, I think it was 2004, 2005, something like that. And I remember it was 99 cents per song.
1,000 songs in your pocket.
1,000 songs you receive. And then the customer was picking and choosing songs, right? Picking and choosing songs, right? So you think now, trying to connect the dots with insurance, right? I think we moved from the analog thing, the thing it was happened before the digital distribution on insurance, again, offline distribution, loan products with a lot of coverage. And there was an agent. I mean, they're still doing that and it adds a lot of value, but it was the agent who was playing with those coverage. I think now digitally we are in the iTunes moment, right? All the embedded insurance, you're going into an airlines, you purchase a travel insurance for that trip, right?
Yes.
Then you are in an e-commerce and you purchase protection for the thing you just purchased, right? And that's fine. We are in the iTunes moment. I think everything that we talk today, I think we are going to break through the Spotify moment. The Spotify moment means that we have access, or platforms have access to so much data about who we are, what we are doing. And we as a company, as an insurance company, we know all these moments to create products that are much more relevant. And think about the Spotify. These are much more than now we have a Spotify in our pocket, right?
Well, just imagine before doing what you can do on Spotify now. Like before, you'd have to create a mixtape for driving.
Exactly.
A mixtape for dating, a mixtape to fall asleep to, for dinner music. Now, this is a perfect analogy, by the way. You've done this perfectly.
Yeah.
Because now the Spotify thing just goes, find your own digital mixtape, right?
Exactly.
The playlist.
I think
it's perfect for you.
Exactly. I mean, the weekly discovery is the best DJ ever.
Perfect for you.
It's perfect, right? And it evolves and it learns, right? And it uses that data and depends on what you are doing, your habits, your lifestyle, how your lifestyle is changing. That means, and I think that's kind of, if you think forward, I think that's a very interesting perspective.
So I'm going to tell you that's the best answer I've ever heard about insurance, about innovation. I'm not kidding. Innovation in the insurance industry, because it makes the mind think differently about, I see what's happening in another industry and how it impacts me. Now I can see that with all of that data out there, some of which has nothing to do with me, is going to allow me to personalize things for me that were not even possible before.
That's right.
Yeah, that's exciting times.
Yeah. That was perfect. Joe Duronio, Strategic Partnerships Director, APAC in Japan at Snowflake, and Gabriel Lazaro, Head of Digital Business Overseas General Insurance at Chubb. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Really awesome.
Thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you. A ti.
Como arigato.
Spanish.